Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update. Today we have Australians' initial reaction to the Reserve Bank's decision to cut interest rates last week. But first, the big issue of working from home. And who would have thought it would be so political and so divisive? Today marks the first day of the Albanese government's Economic Reform Roundtable, looking at how Australia can improve its economic productivity. At a political level, the issue of working from home has been incredibly contentious. Many analysts blamed the Coalition's policy on banning working from home for public servants and subsequent backflip as a key reason for the party's election defeat. But the evidence shows it's nowhere near that simple. Roy Morgan has been measuring work from home since the COVID pandemic in 2020. And the latest Roy Morgan research shows that nationwide, 46% of people, or 47% of voters, around 5.9 million employed Australians, work from home at least some of the time. But this flexibility is concentrated in just 45 electorates. In the remaining 105 seats, the majority of employed voters do not work from home at all. Interestingly, the top 5 electorates, where more than 60% of workers work from home at least some of the time, include 3 Labor seats: Grayndler, the seat of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, Sydney and Bennelong, all in inner city Sydney, and 2 Teal-held seats, Wentworth in Sydney and Kooyong in Melbourne. Get the picture? On the other hand, all 5 of those electorates with the lowest rates of working from home are located in rural and regional Australia and include national held seats of Gippsland and Mallee in Victoria and the Liberal held seats of Forrest and Durack in Western Australia and the Labor seat of Lingiari in the Northern Territory. Well over 2/3 of workers in these 5 electorates don't do any work from home. For more detail on the in-depth study of working from home, visit the Roy Morgan website. Back then to the immediate reaction of Australians to last week's Reserve Bank cut to interest rates. So consumer confidence was virtually unchanged at 89.4. The decision was widely expected in recent weeks, and in early August the index breached the mark of 90 for the first time in over 3 years. So although the initial reaction to the interest rate cut has been subdued, as the rate cut flows through to consumers over the next few weeks, this should provide a boost to consumer confidence. However, if we look underneath the surface, the interest rate cut did have a predictable impact. Consumer confidence for people paying off their homes, people with mortgages, increased by 2.1 points to 90.6 this week. Consumer confidence of this group has increased every time the Reserve Bank cut interest rates so far this year by an average of 5 points. Consumer confidence of renters also increased this week, up 6.4 points to 88.2, the biggest positive impact from the interest rate cut. In contrast, consumer confidence of homeowners dropped 2.6 points this week. Consumer confidence of this group has dropped in all 3 weeks the Reserve Bank cut interest rates so far this year, generally by an average of 2.6 points. So homeowners are generally older than mortgage holders and renters, and they're more likely to benefit from higher interest rates on their savings. There was good news in terms of inflation expectations. This week, ANZ Roy Morgan inflation expectations dropped 0.1% to 4.9%. This means Australians now expect inflation of 4.9% over each of the next 2 years. And finally, today, to the latest Roy Morgan readership figures for the 12 months to June 2025, which show that news continues to matter. It continues to matter at least to the vast majority of Australians. 98% of Australians, an estimated 22.4 million, consume news in any given month, either in newspapers or digitally via online outlets or apps. The most widely read category of news remains the general news. That category has a unique audience, or is read by, 22 million Australians. equivalent to 96% of the population. Property continues to be highly popular, with over 2/3 of Australians, or 70%, turning to the property section, the second most popular overall. In third place is sport, read by 13.5 million Australians, 59% of the population, followed by entertainment and culture on 12.2 million, lifestyle and health on 11.6 million, and business and finance, read by 10.1 million Australians. A look at the top brands in news in Australia, this is really interesting, shows ABC News has the largest unique audience of 12.4 million Australians. That's just in front of news.com.au, with a unique audience of just 12 million, both reaching more than 50% of the population. Other widely read news brands include 9.com.au with an audience of 10.1 million, the Daily Mail with 8.3 million, 7news.com.au at 8.2 million, the Sydney Morning Herald with 8 million, and the Guardian with 7.7 million, all reaching more than 30% of Australians. Now looking at magazines. The latest Roy Morgan figures on magazine readership released today show more than 14.7 million Australians read magazines, either in their traditional print form or online. The two most widely read magazines are Coles magazine with a readership of 5 million Australians, and Fresh Ideas from Woolworths with a readership of almost 4.5 million. The most widely read paid magazines are Better Homes and Gardens with a readership of 1.7 million readers, the Australian Women's Weekly with a readership of more than 1.2 million, and National Geographic with a readership of over 1 million. For detailed information on the latest Roy Morgan readership figures for magazines and newspapers and the Think News Brands analysis, visit the Roy Morgan website. And that's a wrap. Thanks for your interest in Roy Morgan's latest results. For more detail on the topics covered in this video, head over to our website. And I'll be back next week to bring you the latest data on consumer confidence and inflation expectations. The latest figures on mortgage stress will be available, and we'll have a detailed look at federal voting intention over the past month. Thanks for listening. See you next time.